Mandela's Way, the Super Stress Solution, Lost Hero, Dark Demon, Sacred Scars, and some others here. We're going to do some reviewing, and today we're reviewing things that really don't have a whole lot of substance. And we're eating things that really don't have a whole lot of substance.
It's a fun day for eating because it's not a fun
really
day
hot.
for hanging around. It's going to get up to 35, I think they're predicting.
I didn't write any notes in this one. Mandela's Way. It wasn't good. The Super Stress Solution by Roberta Lee, MD. Men produce up to 52% more serotonin than women, so men are less susceptible to be affected by stressors. Cortisol and adrenaline cause blood vessels to constrict. They cause body fat to release fatty acids, which circulate, causing higher cholesterol. Repeated stress lowers production of new nerve cells, which decreases size of your hippocampus. Inflammation leads to decreased micronutrient levels. When stressed, we overuse B vitamins and excrete more of our magnesium. When stressed, leukocytes decrease, which make us more susceptible to illness. People with super stress feel numb, not stressed. Numb is worse. There is little actual information in this audiobook that I haven't heard thousands of times before. It is actually nearly useless to tell someone who is overworked and undernourished due to poverty to take time to meditate and junk. I understand why her patients gave her looks at that suggestion. I had to stop earning an income in order to really have the time to change things. Her diet tips sound good enough. Either you need to have a high income so you can afford to hire a wife to care for you, or you need to make sure you have one at home, willing to really go the extra mile, perhaps keep a caregiver who cares for many husbands. I don't know what you can do with that. And by husbands, I don't mean necessarily men. I just mean there's been a lot of, well, really yellows, some reds. A lot of people who they'll hire somebody to clean their house. They'll hire somebody to, and it may just be a maid service that comes in once a week, but that's fairly common, right? But there's other people who will hire people to come in and tutor their children, nanny their children, prepare meals, whatever. And really, what has happened is there's been a lot of people who, I don't know, back in the 70s or something, they're get the women out of the kitchen and, you know, empower women to not be wives anymore, whatever. And so instead people outsource that if you can afford to, and then if you can't afford to, well, your kids and family just suffer from it because you're out taking care of somebody else.
Or you do. I mean, there's this superwoman syndrome. They've known about it, I think, since the 70s.
So, yeah, I mean, I got on my own and I was like, my mother was out working and my dad was taking care of everything at home. Like, he was re-shingling the roof and mowing the lawn.
He was an amazing house husband from all accounts.
Doing the cooking and cleaning and doing the, he was trained as a mechanic, so he did all that. And I mean, took care of, so he did a lot. And I didn't really notice somehow. I expected, I guess, that everyone was, everyone had some sort of family member like that. And when I got on my own and I was trying to superwoman it like my mother, doing lots of jobs and this and that, whatever, I couldn't. I was like, God, how do people do it? And then it took me a while to realize they don't care for themselves because they can't if they're, if there's nobody at home to, anyway. But what I'm trying to say is there was a movement to appreciate women who did housework and say, look, if you divorce, you get half of everything, because he's been out working, earning the money, and you've been at home not earning money, but you're a family unit and whatever. And now people have outsourced that to people that aren't even a part of their family unit, and they don't get half of their earnings if they decide, oh, well, I don't want to have this job as your mother and caregiver anymore. And it's ridiculous. It really is. It's sick. There's a serious problem. And another, I wouldn't recommend the super stress solution, because I hate it when people give something a new name, rebrand it, and say, oh, this is my diet plan or whatever. That's adrenal fatigue. So don't give it a new name. That's stupid. The Lost Hero by Rick Riordan. A 42-inch Sony, a Tylenol headache. The marketing of other products in the story is shameful. A hero who uses the Roman god names is battling the earth goddess Gaia in this story. Jason, hero in the story, was claimed by Hera after having been born to another woman who was not a good mom. So foster kids with ADHD are our heroes. Perhaps this is who our society thinks will fight back various people from other places, invaders from other places, whatever. I should not read the rest of what I've written there. Vampires, I'm on Dark Demon. Vampires do not like contractions. I doubt any teen would find listening to sex talk from someone who sounds like their grandpa sexy. He sounds like he should read children's stories like Theodore the Tugboat or something similar. This sounds like a joke. I had a good laugh when he wanted to go so deep that he'd never come out. That would be terrible. Would they have to try to walk around like that, like conjoined twins? I mean, I laughed and laughed. I laughed so hard I was choking.
It was awful. I even remember.
Yeah.
It was kind of creepy. In a funny kind of way.
Sacred Scars by Kathleen Dewey. I listened to this, dreadful. It's about a land of magic where teenage boys cry a lot, and a girl and some lost boys go to work on a farm with a blind old man where there's rotting black hummus. I imagine the word was simply misread in the audiobook. It doesn't matter either way.
What did they call it, humus?
They called it hummus.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, you got the... Anyway.
The
it's bad. In this magical land, the males pee often, but the females don't pee at all. You'd get it if you listened to the audiobook. It was ridiculous. Anyway, While I'm Falling by Laura Moriarty is well written and well read. The story is believable. The daughter, Veronica, and mother are not very smart or able to care for themselves in many ways. They are not reliable even though they seem to be nurturing initially. Wives getting half in a divorce is fair. No more. Just half is enough. The Hollow Boy, Lockwood and Company, by Jonathan Stroud. Well read and well written. I think most people would enjoy this. Disney often puts out high quality kid stuff. This is too scary for children though. It bothers me that this was in the juvenile section of the library. Conversations between a ghostly companion and girl about killing another young woman and ways to do it seems wrong for kids. I was scared by the cartoon The Legend of Sleepy Hollow as a child, although I loved it. But there was only hints of death. Here it actually happened and bloody footprints are scary. Still, I did enjoy it, even though it skipped a bit. But it could be my player, because whatever. And it doesn't matter, because, well, it might end up in one of those leave a book, grab a book places around town, because I'm not keeping these. Finding Noof by Zoe Ferraris. We listened to this January 17th. Okay, the mystery wasn't exactly as I expected. Okay, I must have meant to write Palestinian, Colombo. Wearing a raincoat in the desert seems almost as stupid as forcing women to wear black hijabs in the desert. Also, the scenes with the camel seem a bit too romantic, like he's in love with her. Still, the facts seemed well researched, but not entirely believable. The females marrying at such mature ages seems unusual to me. God, it was hot. Swimming. By Nicola Keegan. Sucks. Once I tried to write an entire book from the point of view of a dog and realized nobody, not even a dog, who could read, would want to read it. Perhaps Keegan realized that writing an entire story from the point of view of a baby would suck, so she had the baby age and have the reader follow her as she aged. It still sucks. And getting the reader to follow the story past the baby part is too much to ask from most. Too many writers expect for themselves, or write for themselves, but expect others to pay them for the product. I made it through and still wonder why I bothered.
They say 1/10 of the books put up for publication get published. So that might be why.
Yeah, maybe the other ones are just worse. Matched by Ali Condi is about a society where everyone is controlled. You get an assigned mate, assigned job, it's almost like being Hindu. It is read slowly and exactly as one would read to a 4 or 5-year-old, but the young adult crowd are more young than adult these days. It's not a bad story. I think many 13-year-old girls would enjoy it since it's on audiobook. They can pretend they're actually reading books and continue to stay young. Frost by Ali Condi. Quote, "We die, they learn how not to," Kai tells a fellow society soldier when explaining why the society cares about collecting the soldiers' data. This book is about the society, sending damned outcasts to die with empty promises of citizenship. Society both poisons their citizens and provides health care which allows them to reach age 80, but no older. It seems like the citizens must be clones. Society poisons the water, controls the food production. No one can care for themselves. It seems like they're traveling through Utah and they're trying to find the pilot. Profit? Their resistance doesn't seem like they're anything but a part of the society, and it'd be best for them to join the farmers. I don't know. I can't really remember.
It seems like a funny sort of thing, but isn't COVID-19 basically a wipe out everyone over 90?
Yeah. Executive Privilege by Philip Margolin. It was entertaining. It shows just how much some people hate the Clintons, especially Hillary. Monica L. was hardly young, let alone a girl.
I think you're right. Everyone except the voters hated the Clintons.
Borderline by Nevada Barr. James enjoys listening to this story and reader more than I am. This is sadly a realistic story. They need to take away the law that allows babies born in the U.S. soil citizenship. The parents need to be deported with their illegally imported babies. Perhaps mothers from other countries can arrange to be surrogate mothers for citizens of the U.S. instead. This system doesn't work as it is. Boy, I must have been in a terrible mood when I was reviewing these ones.
Well, they don't sound that good.
Sally Lockhart Mystery, The Tiger in the Well by Philip Pullman. The characters are 2D. The daughter is mentioned, but she may as well be a lamp or trunk. Still, there's a mystery here. I didn't care for the story, although it does make me appreciate the rights women have achieved since Victorian times, and that there's less anti-Semitism. And I don't know about the anti-Semitism.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going wild.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to do it, with
really
very few exceptions.
Lady Killer by Lisa Scottoline. We just listened to an audiobook read by Barbara Rosenblatt recently. James enjoyed listening to her read the last time, so this should be entertaining enough. It's entertaining, but so much cross-marketing. Dunkin' Donuts, Starbucks, Venti. It's a little much. Rosenblatt is doing an excellent job with the various accents. She should have won an award for this. It wasn't a bad mystery. I don't remember which one this was.
Excuse me. And Fred, she's happy to be out here.
Mm.
Yeah, she's laughing.
Still don't remember even reading about. Anyway, that's that. Anything to talk about, James?
Well, there was that Mandela thing. Nelson Mandela,
Oh, okay. You
Mandela.
talk about that. Talk about Mandela.
So there's this idea that Mandela was a follower of Gandhi, who himself was a follower of Tolstoy, or so on and so forth. He would have been a follower of Jesus. Mandela, apparently, when after he was a very young pup at this point in time, right after India gains independence, people are saying in the African National Congress, well, look, they got independence there, and they actually got a measure of freedom, weirdly enough, under the Congress Party, and they've managed to kind of maintain it. They had a rough patch in the late 70s, I think around 77, with Indira Gandhi. But, Mandela says, well, that worked for them, but it won't work for us. Okay, so if a passive, pacifism doesn't work for us, what's left? So around 1960, what he forms is the spear of the party. I don't see Jesus doing that. The spear of the religion, or Tolstoy. The spear of Russia, or Mahatma Gandhi. The spear of India. No. When this guy refused to renounce terrorism, at least it was truth in advertising. The guy was a terrorist. Wake up and smell the coffee. One of the things I'm proudest of was I was attending a No Nukes rally, and in the early 80s here in Lethbridge, and they closed down the semi-major intersection by the library, 9th and whatever avenue that is, 5th Avenue. And they had a speaker there from the ANC. I don't know what that had to do with no nukes and stuff like that. So this is before South Africa got, can you call it independence? I don't know. But got something like a democracy. Can you call it that nowadays? I don't know. Anyway, so it's a white speaker there, and he goes through his rant and stuff like that. And, I'm kind of like applauding. And then at the end, I want you to swear with me. He's got this big commie salute going, and repeat after me. And I'm going, what? I'm seeing all these sheep. There were dozens of people there, maybe 100 people there. I don't want to overstate the case. They've all got their hands raised in the air. I don't like hecklers. I don't like heckling. I felt like heckling, and then I thought, oh no, they're going to misinterpret it, and they're going to think that I'm some right-wing plant or, agitator or something like that. I'm a left-winger, but that's why I don't believe in communism. Communism believes in using right-wing solutions, i.e. the state and the military, or the state, i.e. the military and the army, or the military and the police, in order to fight the state, the military, and the police. And they just never get around to getting rid of the military and police. The state's supposed to wither away. Well, the military and police aren't into withering away. Newsflash, and it never happened in the Soviet Union. They kind of got too scared, and around 1991, because everyone is sitting on their hands then. We're not going to do what you going to do? You're going to take us all on, you stupid skunks, you stupid minority. So I'm really proud, because I'm sitting there saying I didn't put my hand up, and I'd figured out something about the ANC that they had. I figured out that guy was a communist. And when you read, please do it before you start yipping and yapping about Nelson Mandela. Read his biography and how people describe him. No, his autobiography, how he describes himself. How he describes itself. And the people that he hangs with. And almost every white person that he's got with him in the ANC, he describes himself. It's not a biography, it's an autobiography. He describes them variously as Marxist, communist, Trotskyite. Okay, yeah, that's who he's hanging with. And I figured this guy out. You see what I'm saying? But you had all these full gauchos. They got their hand up and they're repeating after. Buh, 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 buh. Okay? And there's a reason why South Africa has had problems ever since independence or democracy or stuff like that. You see, I figured it out. I mentioned it to Fo Gauche a while back. You know why the South Africans, the Boers, gave up on apartheid and that sort of stuff. You go, no. It's because communism went down. No. Yes. You hear them talk nowadays and they say, well, they don't really fear the ANC, but Mugabe, the guy to the north of them in former Southern Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, scares the living daylights. Mugabe, has he died of embarrassment yet? He should die of shame, not embarrassment. I think he did recently, but he kind of was forced out of power. He wasn't going to ever give it up. I don't know. Was he around 90 or something like that? What a slime bucket. And yes, that's why the South Africans, the Boers, gave up on it. That's why they didn't give up on it, because they're sitting there looking, it's the Cold War, and we don't want to be taken over by communists. Anyone who wants to get taken over by a communist is a communist, or a faux gauche. In other words, a Sputnik, a fellow traveler. And you may want it, but when it happens, you won't want it, because you'll be the first to get killed. Ask a socialist revolutionary. Oh, they didn't make it past the purges, you stupid faux gauches. They were hanging with the commies until they got hung by the... Well, they didn't even get hung by the commies. It's usually a bullet in the back of the head. All right? So, Nelson Mandela, some sort of, like Martin Luther King, or, come on, do some reading. Read his autobiography. It's required reading if you're going to go out and say stuff about him. Read it. Don't hand that kind of crap to me, because I'm not going to eat it. You may be able to get some liberals and stuff like that to eat it. I'm not going to eat the crap that you guys deliver and feed yourselves on. Ugh.
Well, wasn't Winnie like sticking tires
on people?
It
was just one
fire?
So far. He was in a little guy called Stompy. When I say little, I think he was in his teens or something like that. But apparently, she was responsible for, I don't think she did it directly, but having a group of people or a person put a tire around Stompy, and that would have been bad enough. It would have been scary, but I guess they set the tire on fire. I think Stompy died. And the funny thing is, in Nelson Mandela's autobiography, I think in 1993, I think he was getting ready for running for election, maybe that was 94 or something like that. He's calling her. Now, you see, here's the thing. Now, what does he call all of his buddies in the ANC, including Winnie, is what? Comrade. Hey, comrade Pauline. Hey, comrade Anniford down there. He calls them all comrade. Read this stuff. You guys are unbelievable. You start talking about him as though he's the second coming of Christ, or the third or fourth or fifth after Tolstoy and Martin Luther King and so on and so forth. Read this stuff. And he hadn't divorced Winnie by then? I think it was like 93. He eventually did, I think, in order to make himself maybe a little bit more electable. She's an awful person, walking around, like he didn't do too much walking around in what I call a military monkey suit, but she's walking around in camouflage.
He's always shown as, a man of the people kind of thing, but I mean...
He comes from aristocracy, perhaps even borderline royalty.
He was a lawyer and stuff,
but also royalty. Something like borderline royalty from the nation. I hesitate to call it a tribe, and that's not because it's politically correct. It's a nation, I can't remember. Is it Hosa or something like that? He comes from some borderline royalty. So he's a big, tall guy walking around, looking regal and all that sort of stuff. You look at what he did. Look at his ugly face. And why is it ugly? Because he's into boxing.
I don't think people necessarily think he's ugly.
Like
whatever.
Around the eyes, like Pierre Trudeau was ugly. He had kind of like wide apart eyes. Why was he ugly? Because he did boxing when he was young. And you look at the bags around his eyes. Tommy Douglas. who I used to admire way back in the day, Andy Peer, probably still admire him a little bit, because he kind of stood up for working class people instead of just people of color all over everything. Like, forget, like after Herbert Marcuse, you can't support white blue collar workers. It's just going to be academics and people of color. Women maybe, like color trumps feminism, that sort of stuff. It's been absolutely crazy the way the left wing has gone. It's gone over this way. It hasn't been that fast, but people have to understand parties change, and the Labour Party in England has changed. The NDP has changed. You have to understand parties change. The Republican Party, which is so benighted nowadays, basically in the thrall of Donald Trump and company, is basically Donald Trump. It's the party of Lincoln. Parties change. And, people who are real left-wingers believe in democracy, believe in free speech, who believe in, unions and stuff like that, like unions as being an expression of democracy. I'm not talking about, like in England, Margaret Thatcher's such a bad person because, hey, she forced the unions to have a secret ballot. That's in the 80s. In the 80s. Why? Because the commies, they'd have a like a vote in a union meeting, and the commies are sitting in the back. Okay, that's Joe Blow. He's got his hand up, and we don't like that. We're going to send out a heavy hitter to deal with Joe Blow. Margaret Thatcher was a hypocrite because she didn't require democracy like a secret ballot of the companies that funded her and that she represented. What are you going to say?
I was just going to say that I don't think it's probably a good thing to. I don't know. And Margaret Thatcher wasn't a good person.
Well, she had huge problems, and like I'm saying, I'm pointing out the hypocrisy. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But like the unions themselves should have been saying, hey, we got to get rid of these commies. We got to have the secret ballot. Like they had unions for decades in England, well, probably over 100 years. They had Chartists and stuff like that going back to the 1830s and 1840s. It was more than 100 years before Margaret Thatcher, and they hadn't figured out that they should have the secret ballot. This secret ballot is part of democracy. Come on. Yeah. So it's hard to support unions who are like that, but they're in the thrall of the commies. And the commies were, hey, let's have a general strike, because Marx had this idea that we'd have a revolution through a general strike. So what they do, like in the 70s, the Labour Party gets elected, and what you got are the unions, just especially the public unions, doing strike after strike after strike. I can remember in the 80s running across an academic family. I was shocked. They hated the Labour Party. This is about 85 or something. Why? And they said, wow, geez, the economy was just in the pits in the late 70s before Margaret Thatcher got elected. And it was because the unions they weren't picking up the garbage, they weren't doing this, they weren't doing that, stuff like that. And with a Labour government, you see what I'm saying? You strike against your opponents, not the people that you're funding.
Exactly.
No. Stupid stuff. But unions do all sorts of stupid stuff. I mean, I support democracy, but here in Canada we've elected Brian Mulroney. People make mistakes in a democracy. In the United States they've got something like a democracy, and they made a huge mistake electing Trump. But they made a huge mistake, not as huge, but they made a huge mistake electing Jimmy Carter back in the day. Almost every Republican that they've elected since I was born, and that's a long time now, and that's just with the exception of Bush Sr., has been a mistake. Like Eisenhower, mistake. Had like